Despite the decline of both kingdoms, with worsening behaviour and consequences, there are still cheering highlights where it is clear that there are still some who are ready to serve the Lord, and those also who will respond when challenged. No king, as we have seen, is perfect, and even the best still make baffling mistakes. But the Lord does distinguish between those whose heart is truly directed towards him, despite shortcomings, and those which are rebellious. Hezekiah is given the greatest attention of all the kings of the divided monarchy, yet, as we have seen in our readings today, some of the more remarkable and dramatic moments of his life are here truncated. The confrontation with Sennacherib and then his illness are compressed and lack the most amazing moments which are found in the 2 Kings telling. The chronicler instead focuses on Hezekiah's reforms, his destruction of the idolatrous installations, renovation of the temple, and re-purification of the priesthood, and a grand celebration of the Passover, albeit a little late, but with a concerted effort towards restoring something of the old unity by inviting any of the fallen northern kingdom who would come. Indeed, a comparison on this point with 2 Kings is striking. In 2 Kings 18, the author summarizes Hezekiah's reforms in a single verse, verse 4. By contrast, the chronicler gives over 3 chapters to it before coming on to Hezekiah's political problems, and obviously provides much material which is not found in 2 Kings. The author of Kings sees Josiah as the greatest king of Judah in the sad history of its decline, but for the chronicler it is Hezekiah. In one major commentary on 2 Chronicles, there is a section entitled The Chronicler's Hezekiah, which looks at the particular way he has been presented here. It begins with this sentence: "The accounts describing the reign of Hezekiah provide the setting for some of the most vigorously debated historical and theological questions in Old Testament study. This king and his period of history is apparently of great significance and some mystery, and it is interesting to realize that there are 3 sources for his life which can be compared: 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and Isaiah. Part of the significance comes from his international dealings, which are also noted in Assyrian records, and part of the mystery inevitably comes from the differences found in the 3 sources. The goal of the chronicler with Hezekiah is to present him as a second David and a second Solomon, particularly Solomon. There is now only one king in the whole of Israel for the first time since David and Solomon, which is alluded to in 30 verse 6. In his appeal to the northern regions of Israel, we see his earnestness towards a unity based on their shared history in the worship of the true God. In 1 Chronicles, as we saw, David's role in the construction of the temple, and especially of the ordering of the priesthood for its services, was greatly enhanced, so that Solomon basically inherited all these instructions and directives, though this is not at the same time meant to diminish Solomon's role. The way in which Hezekiah restores the priests and Levites and organizes them cannot fail to recall David's original work, and also Solomon's implementation of it. The memory of Solomon is further invoked in the way in which Hezekiah unites both kingdoms under one king and temple, albeit not completely. And the joy of that festival was such that it had not been seen since the time of Solomon, as chapter 30 verse 26 declares. When Solomon dedicated the temple, the people celebrated for 2 weeks, and at Hezekiah's Passover, the occasion is so joyful they also double the prescribed time, celebrating for 2 weeks. Like Solomon, Hezekiah offers a prayer for the occasion, and the promised healing in the earlier one is fulfilled in the latter one. Hezekiah's great wealth is also mentioned, and as Solomon was brought gifts from Gentile kings, most notably the Queen of Sheba, so Hezekiah is brought gifts and is exalted in the eyes of other nations. Why make these links between David and Solomon and Hezekiah? It is probably so that the post-exilic community of the chronicler can see the way forward by the light of the glory of the past. The first thing David and Solomon did when they took the throne was to look to the temple. Hezekiah does likewise. All three focused on the temple and its service and united Israel around it. As a result, they were greatly honoured and prospered. Hezekiah's political problems are therefore not centre stage, though obviously his care for what is most important is what provides his security in the face of destruction. The mention of the angel who destroys 185,000 soldiers in one night is surprisingly missing here, and much detail of his subsequent illness, together with the remarkable sign and Isaiah's role in the affair, are also omitted. The occasion when the Babylonians came to Jerusalem and were shown round all the treasures of the temple by Hezekiah, which Isaiah predicted was a sign that Babylon would one day come and take it all, is pared down only to the details that they did indeed come, and that God left Hezekiah to do what he wanted, to test him. There is no criticism and no mention of Isaiah. Verse 30 of chapter 32 mentions the precautionary building work which redirected a spring. This is known today as Hezekiah's Tunnel, and if you go to Jerusalem, you can walk through it. Though if you are claustrophobic, I would probably give it a miss.